All right, today, so I'm going to go over how to solve a centroid for a complex shape. So when you're doing that, you need to make sure these are the 9 steps we're going to follow. These are from your guided notes that we took in class or will be taking in class. You also need to know how to find the centroid of simple basic shapes. You can use, again, your guided notes, or don't forget those same basic shapes are here on your formula chart in Project Lead the Way. Okay, so we need to know the rectangle, the right triangle, and the semicircle, how to find those centroids. So we're just going to follow through these 9 steps. Okay, so the first thing, here's my complex shape. It's fairly simple. I'm going to make it as easy as possible on us as we can here. We're going to divide it into simple shapes. Okay, so we're going to just cut this thing down the middle so we have a right triangle and a square or a rectangle. So we're going to call this shape number 1, and then we'll make this at the bottom shape number 2. Okay, now we want to determine a reference axis, so that's where we're going to set our origin. So this is going to be my origin, and then we'll make this the x-axis, and this the y-axis. Okay, so there's my reference axis. Let me zoom in just a little bit here. Okay, now we want to calculate the area of each simple shape. Now when you're doing this, it really helps to make a table. Okay, so we're going to have shape number 1, shape number 2, okay, and we're going to have to add things together at the end. I know that, so I'm going to go ahead and put that down here. That's the sum symbol. Sorry, I didn't make a very good one there. Okay, and then first we're going to find the area. Okay, so we want to find the area of each shape. First, so for the area for number 1. So the area 1, it's a triangle. Put this up here. So it's 1/2 the base times the height. Now, we didn't put all our numbers on here, so let me put numbers to my shape that I made up. Let's just make these fairly easy numbers. We'll just call this 1. We'll call this 1, and then we'll call this 1 and this 1, right? So the whole length was 2. Okay, so everybody all the way across is 1 everywhere. So my base up here, okay, so my base is equal to 1, and my height is equal to 1 on my triangle. So easy enough. So we're just going to do 1/2 times 1 times 1, which is going to be just the 1/2, or 0.5. So that's what we're going to put up here, 0.5. Okay, I'm going to leave off units for this. It could be inches, feet, we don't care. Okay, oh, for each simple shape, so I'm not done yet. So I'm going to do each simple shape, so let's do my second one. So my area of my square of 2 is just base times height, right? So it's just 1 times 1. And we end up with 1. Ooh, super easy. Okay, now step 4. Determine the centroid of each simple shape. And that's where we have to go back and look at these things and finding the center of each simple shape. So for the green one, it sits right here. Okay, so for my centroid for this shape, and right now we're just going to work in the x, let's just go x direction. So this whole thing will be x. Okay, you have to do it again for y. We have to do this twice. So let's just look at the x first. So my x centroid, put it over here, is equal to, for a triangle, remember, because we're doing on number 1, it's the triangle, it's just 1/3 of the base. Okay, so it's the base over 3, which is just 1/3. Okay, so this is my x. It's just going to be 0.33. Okay, so now I'm going to look at, for my x for my square is going to sit right in the middle right here. Okay, and these are for the simple ones. It's not the overall. Okay, so for this one, my x is just going to be my base over 2. So it's going to be halfway. So it's going to be 1/2, or 0.5. Okay, so that was our next step. So now step 5 says determine the distance from each simple shape centroid to the reference axis. So we're going to do x and y. Right now we're just doing the x. Okay, we'll come back and do y in a minute. We'll do a second one. So in the x direction, how far is it, okay, from here over to there? Okay, so that's what we did here. Okay, so we determined that. Now we already did that. I kind of skipped that step, right, because we were starting at x for both times. So those are the numbers that we put in right here. Okay, number 6, multiply each simple shape's area by its distance from centroid to reference axis. And that sounds confusing, but it just means multiply the area times this distance that we just found. So we're going to multiply across. If I can find my calculator, we will multiply across. There it is. Okay, so 0.5 times 0.33. And we get 0.165, we'll just call it 0.17. Okay, so all we're doing is multiplying the area times the x. And then we're going to do the same for this one. 1 times 0.5, well, that's easy, 0.50. Okay, so easy enough. All right, so then it says sum the products of each simple shape's area and their distances from the centroid to the reference. So this means add up all the stuff we just did. So it just means add up this column right here. So 0.67. So we just added those up. Okay, and then sum the individual shape's area. So we're setting up these. So it's 1.5 because 1 plus 0.5. And then we don't care about this thing right here. Now the last thing, it says divide the summed product of areas and distances by the sum total area. So this is to find the total centroid for this shape in the x direction. It says you want to divide the sum of the ax's over the sum of the a's. Right? So we're going to divide this sum divided by that sum. That's area times the distance divided by the areas. So that's going to be 0.67 divided by 1.5. 0.67 divided by 1.5. And we get 0.446. We'll call it 0.45. So my x for my centroid is 0.45. So for my overall thing, we're going to go 0.45. Remember, here's halfway, so we're kind of right there. So it's somewhere along that line. So we know x. Now we got to solve for the y. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create another little table down here for y. Okay? So we're going to have for number 1 and number 2 and the sum. Then we're going to have for the area, and then we're going to have for y, and then we're going to have the a times the y, because we kind of know what we're doing now. So we're going to make our whole table. Now the areas didn't change, did they? The area of this triangle is still the same area, so it's still 0.5. The area of this square didn't change, it's still 1. Okay, but the y, that does change. So now if we look at this one, we've got this little y here, but he also has to go all the way from down there. Okay, so my y is equal to my b over 3, but I got to add it to that square, plus that 1. Okay, and it's not b over 3 now, it's height over 3, right, because we're doing y. Well, the height is still 1, so it didn't matter. So this is just 1/3 plus 1, or 1.33. Okay, so that's the big thing. Don't forget, we started down here to get all the way up there. So we have to add the 1 and then do the centroid for the little part. Now this one, we're still just starting from down here. So it's still just halfway. So it's half the height. Okay, so my y for my pink is just my height over 2, which is again is just 1/2 or 0.5. Okay, now again we're going to multiply across. Since I got this pin in my hand, 1 times 0.5 is 0.5, so that one's easy. And then we're going to have 0.5 times 1.33. We get 0.665 or 0.67 for this guy up here. Now we got to add them up going down here. So this is going to be 1.5 again. Okay, 0.67 times 0.5. 0.5 plus 0.67, 1.17. Remember, we don't use this guy. And now for my y is the sum of the ay's over the sum of the a's. The sum of this column divided by that column. So it's 1.17 divided by 1.5. And we get 0.78. Okay, so that's the distance that I'm going to go this direction. Okay, so we're going to go 0.78. So there's half, about 3/4, so about right there. So that one's coming across here. Where those two lines intersect, right there, is the centroid for the large piece. Right, so there's the centroid for that. Centroid for that's kind of in between, right? It's kind of the average of those two. And now you have the centroid of the whole thing. And we just followed our instructions 1 through 9. Make the table. No bit of math by itself is very hard. It's just keeping track. So this is almost how good are you at organizing, not how good are you at doing the math. And that's it.